For a decade, Elias Kane carved a solitary life on his Montana ranch, a man forgotten by the world until 10 Apache strangers arrived, hunted by soldiers, begging for shelter under a storm that could drown them all. The Montana sky burns crimson. At dusk, its edges fraying into a bruised purple as night creeps over the plains. Elias Kane, a man as weathered as the oak fence posts he drives into the earth, stands alone at the edge of his ranch. His boots crunch on frost-kissed grass, each step heavy with the weight of 49 years. His face, etched with lines like dry riverbeds, tells a story of loss no one dares ask about. In his calloused hand, a faded photograph trembles, a woman's face, her smile soft as morning light, now distant as a star. Clara, his wife, taken by a fever 10 years past, leaving him to haunt this land they once dreamed of taming together. He traces her outline with a thumb, then tucks the photo inside his vest, the fabric worn thin over his heart. The wind rises, sharp with the promise of rain, and carries the scent of pine and loneliness. Elias trudges toward the barn, his shadow stretching long across the pasture. The ranch sprawls around him, acres of rolling grass framed by jagged peaks, a kingdom built for two but ruled by one. The cattle low softly, their breath steaming in the chill air, as he forks hay into their troughs. The barn's timbers creak, whispering memories of Clara's laughter, her hands guiding his to plant the first seeds here. Now, it's just him, the herd, and the endless sky. In Bozeman, 30 miles east, folks call him the reclusive Canes. Hill, a former scout turned ghost after a betrayal he never speaks of. He prefers it that way. The world stays out, and he stays whole, his rifle always within reach. Tonight, though, the world won't stay away. As Elias douses the lantern, its amber glow fading into the barn's shadows, a low rumble cuts through the wind, not thunder hoof beats. His hand finds the rifle propped against a stall, fingers curling tight around the stock. He steps into the yard, the first stars piercing the storm-heavy sky. Lightning cracks, sharp and white, revealing 10 figures on horseback, their silhouettes stark against the rolling plains. Apaches. Their clothes are ragged, patched with mud and blood, their faces gaunt from days on the run. At their head rides a young man, no older than 30, his posture straight despite the weight of exhaustion, his eyes dark and unyielding, meet Elias's with a quiet intensity. He raises a hand, palm open, and speaks, his voice cutting through the gathering storm. "I'm Tarak," he says, rain beginning to speckle his shoulders. "We're hunted. Soldiers want us dead for a fight we didn't start. We need shelter. One night, maybe two. We'll be gone before you know it." Elias's grip on the rifle tightens, his knuckles pale. Apaches, outlaws in the eyes of the law, their names tied to raids and broken treaties. Soldiers won't be far behind, and sheltering these men could bring fire down on his ranch's sanctuary. He studies Tarak's face, searching for deceit, but finds only desperation, raw and unguarded. Behind Tarak, the others wait, their horses shifting nervously. Among them, a woman stands out, her dark hair braided tight, her eyes sharp as flint. She holds herself with a quiet strength, her gaze locking onto Elias's, unafraid but searching. As if reading the scars he hides, her presence stirs something in him, a flicker of unease or recognition. "Why me?" Elias's voice is rough, scraped raw by years of silence. "Why my ranch?" Tarak steps closer, his boots sinking into the mud. "Your land's far from town, far from their eyes. We got no one else, Kane. You know what it's like to be alone." The words hit like a stone to the chest. Elias's mind churns. He knows the soldiers' ways. Holt's men, likely, ruthless and quick to shoot. If they find Apaches here, they'll burn the barn, maybe the whole ranch, and ask questions later. But Tarak's words echo Clara's, her voice soft in his memory, urging him to offer a stranger's hand when the world turned cold. He glances at the woman again, her eyes still on him, steady as the mountains. The storm growls, its first heavy drops pelting the earth, soaking his hat brim. His heart pounds Roswell, torn between the safety of his solitude and a spark of compassion he thought he'd buried with Clara. "Get your horses in the barn," he says at last, the words heavy, reluctant. "Stay out of sight. One wrong move, and you're done. Tarek nods, a flicker of relief in his eyes. You have our word. The Apaches dismount, leading their horses into the barn's shadow. Their movements weary but careful, like men who know the cost of a misstep. The woman lingers a moment, her gaze holding Elias's, a silent question in her eyes. She doesn't speak, but her presence feels like a challenge, or maybe a promise. Elias turns away, his chest tight with the weight of his choice. The ranch, once a silent refuge, hums with unfamiliar life. 10 strangers, 10 stories, 10 risks. Thunder rolls, sealing them all in its embrace as rain begins to fall in earnest, cloaking the world in a restless, uncertain night. Dawn breaks over the Montana plains, the sky a fragile pink streaked with clouds like torn cotton. The storm has passed, leaving the ranch slick with mud and the air sharp with the scent of wet sage. Elias Kane stands at the barn's threshold, his rifle slung over his shoulder, eyes scanning the horizon for dust-cloud soldiers. Inside, the Apaches huddle in the hay-strewn shadows, their presence a weight on the silence he's guarded for years. He didn't sleep, his mind tangled with doubt, Clara's photograph burning a hole in his vest. 10 strangers under his roof, each a risk, each a reminder of a world he swore to keep out. Tarek kneels by a makeshift fire in the barn's corner, warming his hands as the others rest. His face, lit by the flickering glow, carries a quiet resolve, but his eyes betray exhaustion. Elias steps inside, his boots thudding on the packed earth. You said one night, he says, voice low, edged with suspicion. Sun's up, time to move. Tarek rises, meeting Elias's gaze. We will, but the soldiers are close, tracks. In the mud they'll find us if we ride now. Give us till dusk. Elias's jaw tightens. He wants them gone, wants his solitude back, but the truth in Tarek's words gnaws at him. Soldiers don't ask questions, they shoot. He's seen it before, in his scouting days, when promises of peace turn to blood. He glances at the group. Most are young, their faces etched with hunger and loss. But one figure draws his eye, the woman from last night, her braid glinting in the slanted light. She's tending to a calf, her hands gentle as she soothes its trembling flank. Her movements are sure, practiced, like she's known animals all her life. Elias catches himself staring, a pang stirring in his chest. Clara used to tend the herd that way. You got a name? He asks, sharper than he means. She looks up, her eyes steady, unflinching. Neela. She says, her voice soft but firm, like a river over stone. This one's sick, needs rest, not a rope. She nods at the calf, her fingers brushing its ear. Elias grunts, unsure why her words unsettle him. Calf's my problem, not yours. Keep to your own. Nila's lips twitch, not quite a smile. Your problem's breathing better now. You're welcome. Tarek steps between them, diffusing the tension. We're grateful, Kane, for the shelter, for the risk. He pulls a small pouch from his belt, offering it. Dried herbs, our way of thanks. Elias hesitates, then takes it, the pouch light in his hand. He doesn't open it, just tucks it into his vest beside Clara's photo. Don't need your thanks, just need you gone. But as the day unfolds, the Apaches don't feel like strangers. Tarek shares stories of their journey, families lost to settlers' greed, a skirmish they didn't start, a desperate flight across the plains. His words are measured, but pain threads through them, and Elias listens despite himself. Neela, quieter, works alongside the men, mending a torn saddle, her hands deft and sure. When she catches Elias watching, she doesn't look away, and he feels a pull, faint but undeniable, like a tide turning in his blood. By midday, the ranch hums with small acts of life. One Apache, a boy barely 16, hums a low melody as he sharpens a knife. Another, older, with scars crisscrossing his arms, helps Elias mend a fence post. Their silence companionable. The ranch, once a tomb of quiet, feels alive. Its golden grass and weathered barns softened by their presence. Elias fights it, this warmth creeping into his bones. Trust got him burned before friends who turned, promises broken. He won't be fooled again. The fragile peace shatters when hoofbeats echo in the distance. Elias bolts to the ridge, glassing the horizon with an old spyglass. A lone rider. Not a soldier but Amos, a neighbor with a loose tongue and a nose for trouble. Elias meets him at the gate, his face a mask of calm. Amos, squinting past him toward the barn, smirks. Heard talk in town, Kane. Soldiers hunting Apaches. You seen any? Ain't seen nothing but cattle. Elias lies, his voice steady, though his pulse races. You riding all this way just to gossip? Amos chuckles, but his eyes linger on the barn. Holt's men are circling. They find out you're hiding trouble. Won't be just your cattle burning. He tips his hat and rides off, leaving Elias staring at the dust. Back at the barn, Tarak waits, his face tight. He'll talk. We need to leave. Elias shakes his head, surprising himself. Not yet. Soldiers will be watching the trails. Wait till dark. The words taste foreign, like he's betraying his own rules. Neela, nearby, meets his gaze, her expression unreadable but warm, like she sees something in him he's forgotten. As dusk paints the sky in hues of amber, Elias stands alone, the ranch sprawling around him, its silence now heavy with secrets. He fingers the pouch in his vest, its weight a reminder of the choice he's made. One night, one risk, one step away from the man he was. The mountains loom, watchful, as the Apaches prepare to hide, and Elias wonders if he's opened a door he can't close. The Montana dawn spills gold across the ranch, painting the dew-soaked grass in hues of fire. Elias Kane leans against the barn door, his breath visible in the crisp air, the rifle at his side a constant companion. The Apaches hidden in the barn's loft and a cramped cellar beneath it, a relic from Elias's scouting days, have settled into an uneasy rhythm. 3 days have passed since Amos's visit, and the horizon remains clear of soldiers. But Elias feels the weight of time pressing in, like a noose tightening. The ranch, once his sanctuary, now hums with voices, footsteps, and the faint clink of spurs, a pulse he both resents and craves. Clara's photograph rests heavy in his vest, beside the pouch of herbs Tarak gave him. To ghosts vying for his heart. Inside the barn, Tarak kneels by the cellar hatch, passing a waterskin to the men below. His face is drawn, but his eyes burn. With purpose, we owe you, Kane, he says, his voice low, steady. You've risked more than most. Elias shrugs, his gaze flickering to the horizon. Don't thank me yet. Soldiers ain't known for giving up. His words are gruff, but Tarak's gratitude lingers, stirring memories of camaraderie from his scouting days. Before betrayal soured trust, he pushes the thought away, focusing on the task at hand. The cellar, dug deep into the earth, smells of damp soil and secrets, its walls braced with old timbers. It's a tight fit for 10, but it's kept them hidden until now. Neela emerges from the barn, her braid loose from a morning's work mending a horse's reins. She carries a quiet grace, her movements deliberate, like she's learned to tread lightly in a world that bites. She catches Elias watching and offers a small nod, her eyes holding his just long enough to stir a warmth he hasn't felt in years. Your land, she says, gesturing to the sprawling pastures. It's strong, like you, but it's lonely. To Elias shifts, uncomfortable under her gaze. Land don't need company, neither do I. But the words feel hollow, and Nila's faint smile suggests she knows it. She kneels by a patch of wildflowers near the barn, plucking one and tucking it into her braid. The gesture, simple and unguarded, pulls at something in Elias, a memory of Clara weaving daisies into her hair under a summer sky. As the day unfolds, the Apaches weave into the ranch's rhythm. Tarak teaches a young Apache, Kale, to carve bow, his patience steadying the boy's restless hands. Kale, all sharp edges and defiance, glares at Elias when he passes, his distrust a mirror of Elias's own. Others pitch in mending fences, feeding the cattle small acts that blur the line between guest and kin. Neela shares stories of her people over a shared meal of cornbread and venison, her voice weaving tales of starlit hunts and sacred mountains. Elias listens, drawn in despite himself, her words painting a world he's never known. When she speaks of loss her brother, killed by settlers, her voice catches, and Elias feels an ache, his own grief rising like a tide. That by dusk, the ranch glows under a sky streaked with amber, the mountains standing sentinel. Elias and Neela find themselves Alone by the fire pit, the others resting in the barn. The fire crackles, casting shadows across her face, and she leans closer, her hand brushing his as she passes him a tin mug of coffee. The touch lingers, electric, and Elias's heart stumbles. "You don't talk much about her," Neela says softly, her eyes on the flames. "The woman in your heart." Elias stiffens, his fingers tightening around the mug. "Ain't much to say. She's gone." But Neela's gaze, gentle yet piercing, coaxes more. He speaks of Clara, her laugh, her stubborn hope, words he hasn't uttered in a decade. Neela listens, her silence a gift, and for a moment, the ranch feels less like a grave. The moment shatters when Cale bursts from the barn. His face pale, eyes wild. "They're coming," he hisses. "Soldiers. I saw dust on the ridge." Elias bolts to his feet, grabbing his spyglass. A mile out, a patrol moves fast, 6 men, led by Captain Holt. His red sash a slash of blood against the plains. Elias's stomach twists. Holt's a hunter, relentless, with a hatred for Apaches that burns hotter than reason. "Cellar." "Now," Elias orders, his voice steel. Tarek rallies the others, and they vanish below, Neela last, her hand grazing Elias's arm as she passes. A silent thank you. Elias covers the hatch with hay, his hands steady but his mind racing. He steps outside as Holt's patrol thunders into the yard, their horses snorting clouds of dust. Holt, lean and sharp-eyed, dismounts, his gaze slicing through Elias like a blade. "Kane." Holt drawls, his voice cold as iron. "Word is you're hiding vermin. Apaches, hand 'em over, and we'll leave your ranch standing." Elias meets, his stare, his heart pounding, but his face a mask. "Ain't seen no Apaches, just me and the cattle." His lie hangs in the air, fragile as glass. Holt steps closer, his boots crunching gravel, and scans the barn, the pasture, the shadows. The ranch itself seems to hold its breath, its timbers creaking under the weight of secrets. "You're a poor liar, Kane," Holt says, a smirk curling. His lip, "We'll be back, and when we find 'em, you'll wish you'd chosen better." He mounts up, his men following, but their eyes linger, promising trouble. As the dust settles, Elias exhales, his hands trembling. He turns toward the barn, where Neela waits at the hatch, her face pale but resolute. "They'll come back," she says, her voice steady. "You didn't have to lie for us." Elias looks at her, the firelight still warm in his memory. "Didn't do it for you," he mutters, but the light tastes bitter. The ranch, its golden fields now shadowed, feels alive with risk and possibility, and Elias knows he's crossed a line he can't uncross. The Montana sky churns with clouds, heavy and gray, as if mourning a fragile peace on Elias Kane's ranch. The air hums with tension, the grass bending under a restless wind that carries the faint tang of smoke. Elias stands on the porch, his rifle cradled in his arms, eyes fixed on the distant ridge where Holt's soldiers vanished yesterday. The Apaches remain hidden in the cellar, their presence a secret that weighs heavier with each passing hour. The ranch, once a haven of solitude, now feels like a trap, its sprawling pastures and weathered barns holding their breath. Clara's photograph, tucked against Elias's heart, burns with unspoken questions, while Neela's face her steady gaze, her quiet strength lingers in his mind, stirring a warmth he both fears and craves. Inside the barn, Tarek checks the cellars. Provisions, his movements swift but weary. "We leave tonight," he tells Elias, his voice low, urgent. "You've done enough, more than we could ask." His gratitude is genuine, but Elias waves it off, his thoughts tangled. The Apaches have woven themselves into the ranch's rhythm. Neela's care for the cattle, Tarek's steady leadership. Even Kel's sullen glares feel like threads in a tapestry Elias didn't mean to weave. But trust is a brittle thing, and Elias's past friends who turned. Promises broken keeps his guard high. Neela steps into the barn, her braid catching the dim light, a wildflower still tucked into its strands. She carries a mended harness, her hands stained with leather dye, and offers Elias a small smile. "Your horses are stronger than you let on," she says, her voice soft but teasing. Like their owner, Elias's lips twitch, a rare almost smile. But before he can respond, hoof beats thunder in the distance, closer than before. His heart lurches. He grabs his spyglass, racing to the ridge, Neela and Tarak at his heels. Through the lens, Elias sees them Holt's soldiers, now joined by a familiar figure, Sheriff Boone, Elias's old friend from his scouting days. The sight twists like a knife. Boone, with his easy grin and promises of loyalty, was there when Elias lost everything when Clara died. The patrol halts at the gate, and Elias strides out to meet them, his face a mask of stone, though his pulse hammers. Neela and Tarak slip back to the barn, their eyes sharp with worry. Boone dismounts, his weathered face tight with something like regret. "Elias," he says, his voice low, "you're in deep. Holt says you're hiding Apaches. I didn't believe it, but I had to see for myself." Holt, looming behind, smirks, his red sash stark against the gray day. "Ain't hiding nobody," Elias says, his voice steady. But Boone steps closer, his eyes searching Elias's face. "Don't lie to me, old friend. Not after everything." He pauses, then drops the words that shatter the air. "Clara wasn't taken by fever, Elias, you know that. It was Apaches, a rogue band, 10 years back. Killed her in a raid. And these," he gestures toward the barn, "they're tied to that blood." The world tilts. Elias's breath catches, his hand clutching the rifle so tight his knuckles whiten. Clara's death, her fever, her quiet passing was a lie he told himself to survive the grief. But the truth, raw and jagged, rips through him. He remembers the whispers in town, the glances he ignored, the way Boone never spoke of that day. "You knew," Elias rasps, his voice breaking, "and you let me believe. I was protecting you." Boone cuts in, his voice thick. "You were broken, Elias. But these Apaches, they're the same kind. Hand 'em over, or Holt burns." This place to ash, rage surges, drowning reason. Elias storms into the barn, where Tarak and Neela wait, their faces tense. "Is it true?" he demands, his voice a snarl. "Your people, did they kill her?" Tarak's eyes widen, but he shakes his head, firm. "Not us, Kane. My band fights for survival, not slaughter. You've seen who we are." Neela steps forward, her voice steady but pained. "I knew of a rogue band. Years ago, they shamed our people, but we're not them." Her eyes plead. But Elias's heart is a storm, betrayal cutting deeper than Boone's. "Words, you knew." He spits, echoing his own accusation. "And you said nothing." "I wanted to protect my people," Neela says, her voice cracking. "Like you protect this land." Her words sting, but before Elias can respond, a cry splits the air. Kale, the young Apache, bolting from the cellar, his face wild with panic. "They're circling," he shouts, pointing to the ridge. Holt's men have fanned out, torches lit, their intent clear. Elias's rage falters, replaced by cold clarity. "Get to the cellar," he orders. But it's too late. Holt's voice booms from the yard. "Time's up." Kane, a torch arcs through the air, landing in the dry grass near the barn, flames licking upward. Chaos erupts. Tarak rallies the Apaches, grabbing what weapons they have: knives, a single rifle. Neela pulls Elias toward the cellar, her hand gripping his arm, but he shakes her off. Torn between fury and the instinct to protect, the soldiers charge, their horses thundering, sabers glinting. Elias fires a warning shot, the crack echoing off. The mountains. The Apaches fight back, using the barn's shadows and the ranch's terrain ditches, fences to slow the assault. Neela drags a wounded Apache to safety, her braid unraveling, her face fierce with defiance. Elias, caught in the fray, sees Kale dart into the open, drawing the soldiers' fire. The boy's reckless move buys them time, but a bullet grazes his shoulder, and he stumbles, blood staining the earth. In the chaos, Elias meets Neela's eyes, her fear mirroring his own. The ranch, now a battlefield under a blood-red sunset, groans with the weight of violence. Elias's heart pounds, Clara's death and Neela's confession colliding in his chest. He grabs Kale, hauling him to the cellar, and fires another shot, holding the line. Tarak shouts orders, his voice a beacon in the smoke. As the soldiers regroup, Elias realizes he's fighting not just for his land, but for these people, these strangers who've become something more. The flames spread, the ranch is golden, grass curling black, and Elias knows the truth about Clara has changed everything. Yet, as he stands shoulder to shoulder with Terek, Nila's wildflower still vivid in his mind, he chooses to fight, not for vengeance, but for something he thought he'd lost: kinship. The Montana ranch burns under a sky blood red by the setting sun, its pastures streaked with smoke and flame. Elias Kane stands at the barn's edge, rifle hot in his hands, the air thick with the acrid bite of gunpowder. The Apaches, scattered across the yard, fight with desperate precision, knives flashing, bodies low, using the ranch's ditches and fences as cover. Terek's voice cuts through the chaos, sharp and steady, directing his men. Nila, her braid loose and wild, drags a wounded Apache toward the cellar, her face fierce with resolve. Elias's heart thunders, Clara's photograph await against his chest, her death revealed as murder, not fever still raw. Yet, as he meets Nila's eyes across the smoke, he feels a shift, a choice made in the heat of battle. These people, strangers no longer, are worth fighting for. Holt's soldiers press forward, their horses snorting, sabers glinting like fangs in the dusk. Elias fires, the crack of his rifle felling a rider, but more come, relentless as wolves. The ranch groans under the assault, its timbers splintering as flames lick the barn's walls. Terek, wielding a stolen saber, holds the line beside Elias, their shoulders brushing, a silent pact forged in the chaos. "We can't hold them long," Terek shouts, his voice hoarse. "They're too many." Elias nods, his mind racing. He knows this land, every gully, every rise. "Follow me," he growls, leading Terek and two others to a shallow ravine behind the barn, its banks cloaked in sagebrush. They crouch low, using the train to flank the soldiers. Nila joins them, her knife drawn, her breath steady despite the blood on her sleeve. Elias catches her gaze, a flicker of something unspoken passing between them: trust, maybe, or more. The plan works. The ravine shields them as they pick off Holt's men, one by one, their shots precise, guided by Elias's knowledge of the land. But the victory is fleeting. Kale, the young Apache, reckless and defiant, breaks from cover, sprinting toward a soldier aiming at Nila. "No," Elias shouts, but it's too late. Kale tackles the man, his knife flashing, but a second soldier fires, the bullet tearing through Cal's chest. He collapses, blood pooling in the dirt, his eyes wide with a boy's fear and a warrior's resolve. Nila screams, scrambling to him, but Elias pulls her back, his arm tight around her. "He's gone," he says, his voice breaking. Terek kneels by Kale, whispering words Elias doesn't understand. A prayer or farewell. The soldiers hesitate, stunned by their losses, and Elias seizes the moment. He fires again, his aim true, and Holt's men falter, their line breaking. The ranch, scarred but unyielding, seems to fight with them, its rugged terrain tripping horses, its shadows hiding their movements. As the soldiers retreat, Holt lingers, his face twisted with rage. Elias strides forward, rifle raised, but Boone steps between them, his hands up. "Enough, Elias," Boone says, his voice heavy. "Holt lied. Those Apaches, they ain't the ones who killed Clara. He twisted the truth to fuel his hunt. I should have told you years ago." The words hit like a fist. Elias's rifle lowers, his breath ragged. Clara's death, a wound reopened, was not these Apaches' doing. Holt's smirk fades as Boone's confession hangs in the air. "You'll answer for this," Elias says, his voice low, lethal. Holt mounts his horse, spitting curses, and rides off, his men trailing, defeated for now. The ranch falls silent, save for the crackle of dying flames and the wind's mournful howl. At dawn, the Apaches gather by Kel's body, wrapped in a blanket. Terek speaks softly, his words a tribute to the boy's courage. Elias, standing apart, digs a grave near the ridge, the earth yielding to his shovel. Nila joins him, her hands dirt-stained, her eyes red but steady. "He saved me," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "He was family," Elias nods, his throat tight. "This land's his now," he says, and they bury Kale under the watchful mountains, the ranch claiming him as one of its own. Terek's band prepares to leave, their horses saddled, their faces etched with gratitude and grief. "You gave us a chance," Terek says, clasping Elias's hand. "We won't forget." Neela lingers, her gaze locked on Elias. "I'm staying," she says, her voice firm, a wildflower still tucked in her hair. "This land, it's home now." Elias's heart stumbles, but he nods, a quiet understanding passing between them. The others ride out, their silhouettes fading into the plains, but Neela stays, her hand finding his as they turn to ward the ranch. The land, scarred by fire but kissed by morning light, feels alive again. Elias and Neela walk the pastures, their steps matched, the future uncertain but shared. The ranch, once a tomb, blooms with purpose, justice won through blood, kinship forged in fire. This story draws from the Apache Wars, a brutal chapter from 1849 to 1886, where conflict often drowned out compassion. Yet, moments of humanity, like Elias's choice, remind us of the strength in unity. The Apache people endured, their culture a testament to resilience. If this tale of heart and courage moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of the Wild West. Tell us in the comments, could you risk everything for strangers, like Elias did?